Was I tricked into granting my wife permission to sleep around? What now? Major apologies for length, but I feel all of this detail is necessary. I'm a 30-year-old male and have been married to my wife, who's aged 29, for 8 years. We dated for a little over a year prior to that and were friends for about 3 years before that. We have a 17-month-old daughter that has me tourniquet wrapped around her little finger already. Let me preface all of this by saying that I really love my wife. I would characterize our relationship and marriage up until the last few weeks as epic. This is a hard story to tell. About 2 months ago, I had an odd half surprising conversation with my wife. We were sitting on the couch after having gotten the little one to bed and eaten dinner, including a couple of glasses of wine, mind you, when she brought up the subject of monogamy and having an open or semi-open relationship. This was a long and unexpected conversation, but the gist of it and concluding agreed upon points ended up being, we felt our love for each other was stronger than ever and ironclad. We felt our relationship had reached the point where it transcended traditional monogamy norms, that either person could potentially have sex with someone else, and that it wouldn't impact the core foundation of our relationship or our love. We agreed that if circumstances ever arose where someone wanted to have the experience of having sex with someone else, it would be allowed as long as it did not interfere with time spent with each other, with our child, and did not take away emotional capacity for each other. If it was to ever happen, you had to be completely honest and safe about it. No sneaking around. We both have veto power at any time over a specific person, circumstance, or the whole idea altogether, or so I thought. Read on. Keep in mind that nothing like this has ever come up before in 8 years of marriage and 12 years of knowing each other. At the time, I remember feeling a little dumbfounded that I was actually having this conversation and amazed that these words were coming out of our mouths and that my wife had initiated the whole thing. I had several girlfriends before meeting my wife, but she was the first woman I ever had sex with. She, on the other hand, was sexually active at an early age and with multiple partners. At that moment, I couldn't help but feel like I had been handed a golden ticket. I was raised in a very Southern Baptist home and brainwashed with a ton of abstinence, bullshit, proud escape of the church matrix going on 10 years now. So I must admit that I had carried around a small bit of regret that I had missed out on my opportunity to play the field sexually in college, and that I would never have that opportunity again. I'd just been given a free pass to do something about that should I so choose without any consequence at all. I walked away from that conversation with a new respect for our marriage and how cool we both were. Slash forward to the next day, I wake up and shake off the cobwebs and have one of those WTF just happened moments. My stomach felt like it was made of lead. In my gut, I felt like all of this was wrong and I needed to undo it. But I didn't want to speak up just yet. I remembered back to all the church camp programming of my youth and wondered if it was just doubt from that bubbling up to the surface. I decided to take a couple of days to process all this information and really think hard about it. We both lead very busy lives, so I figured I had some time to assimilate this before taking any action. About a week less after our conversation, my wife comes home from going out to get some work done at a coffee shop. She's acting very strange and anxious when she gets home, and I start to feel very strange and nervous as a result. I ask her who was there with her, and she tells me it was a guy friend of a friend, Mr. X, that we both know and had met about 2 months prior. I was a little shocked to learn that she had acted on our agreement so quickly. Here is where our version of events diverges significantly. I say that at that point, I made it clear that I was not as comfortable with this whole thing as I had thought I would be initially, and that I wanted to take it all back. I asked if anything had already happened, and she responded no, but that it probably was going that way and she was attracted to him and vice versa. I made it clear I thought that I didn't like this guy she went to go see and didn't want her to see him again. She assured me that everything was okay and said repeatedly, "You don't have anything to worry about, anything between me and X," which I took to mean as confirmation that the whole idea was scrapped, or at the very least, she won't be hooking up with X. That night, I mentally breathed a sigh of relief and felt like we had dodged a bullet. I had basically come to the conclusion, independently of this event, that our marriage was too important to me to take a risk on damaging it. I felt 99% certain that our marriage could continue to function without any significant disruption or guilt-tagging jealousy if one of us slept with someone else. but the potential damage of that one chance was too great a risk to take. In other words, our marriage was great, so why risk it? It would be great if that's where the story ended. I wish I could rewind to that night and say explicitly no. I am not okay with this arrangement. I was not thinking clearly when I agreed to that, and I am quite happy staying in a traditional monogamous relationship. But thanks for the offer. Last night I found out in a roundabout way that my wife's take on that last conversation was completely different from mine. She says that when she said you don't have anything to worry about between me, and she meant was that it was going to continue, but would have no impact on her love for me or the continuing day-to-day of our marriage. She's been sleeping with him for at least a couple of weeks. Since sometime after the last talk on the subject, I could not bring myself to ask the particulars, so I don't know how many times exactly, not sure I want to. Rewinding the whole series of events, I can't help but wonder if this is all an elaborate, masterful way of getting me to authorize an affair. After all, there was little opportunity for me to sleep with anyone else. All of my time is spent at my office or at home. My wife, on the other hand, has 3 days a week at home by herself, working as a freelance copywriter, and the timing of the whole thing is more than suspect. She claims adamantly that this is not the case and that the speed at which she took advantage of our agreement was purely coincidental. Today I was a complete wreck and completely worthless at work. I feel betrayed and utterly hollow. I went home for a while and talked to my wife for a bit. I asked her what she would do if I said I wanted this all to end, go back to the way things were before all of this happened, and her not see X ever again. Her response, well, I guess I wouldn't really have a choice. I guess, but I wouldn't like it. I'm really at a loss as to what to do now. I am having a hard time figuring out to what extent I have a right to be upset about this. Can I even consider this an affair heating? Is this just a miscommunication of epic proportions? Am I just being a stupid baby because she went first and I should just buck up and hold on to my golden ticket? Update wall of text follows. If you can make it through, there will be cake. Also, in case you missed and don't want to bother reading subsequent thread, I am 30, wife is 29, we have been married 8 years. Shortly after posting my last update, I finally gave an ultimatum of sorts to my wife. I told her plainly that things could not continue on this way, and that if she didn't stop seeing her boyfriend and enter into some marriage therapy immediately, then it was over. She agreed. She seemed to have a very meh attitude about the whole thing. When asked, she would say that she wanted to work out our differences and fix our relationship, but only if I directly asked the question. And even then, she seemed to be annoyed more than anything. Her attitude towards me in our day-to-day interactions became extremely cold from that point on. Basically, all signs of affection ceased. Conversation other than directly initiated and sustained by me ceased. Things as simple as a reassuring touch on the arm or a peck on the cheek. As I leave for work ended, she would reciprocate if I hugged her, but there was a tenseness and general sense of unease about it. She seems to wear an aura of I'm here because I have to be. We've done 7 weeks of therapy, 5 together and 2 sessions separate. The therapy itself has been a mixed bag. Mostly the sessions revolved around how did we get here, what broke down in our relationship, and how to fix that and make it not happen. Of course, most of this appears to be my fault, at least according to my wife. In my couple of previous posts, I talked about how her story of why this was happening and what her real intention or wants were kept changing. In therapy, it became completely about my failings in our marriage. Her spin on things was that she had been unhappy for some time because I'm constantly depressed or in a bad mood because I'm stuck in a job situation I hate. Some background there, I have been working corporate 9-to-5 type jobs since I graduated college in 2003, software related. They are definitely not my passion in life, and I've been seeking a way out of the corporate rat trap for some time. It's true this has made me really unhappy at times in the past, but not constantly depressed and irritable. It was an occasional state of mind that could last for a few days. Max was a few months in my previous job, which I came to truly loathe for a variety of reasons. She would get really defensive and hostile when I pointed out in therapy that my job provides us the stability to live comfortably and provide for our family. She works freelance for much less money, unpredictable income stream, and no benefits. She also claimed that I spent too much time on other hobbies and that we grew apart. I took major issue with this. I was always pretty careful about time that I spent alone or with other friends, and there was rarely a week that went by that the majority of my non-work time was spent away from home and not with my wife. The ratio had definitely changed over the last couple of years. I picked up some hobbies that she was not interested in, but overall, I felt like we had sustained a high level of interaction beyond incidental day-to-day contact. We spent time together at home, went out together, went on dates, everything you would expect from a healthy relationship. There were times that I was depressed, especially where I would withdraw and mostly want to be by myself. That's just how I am, I guess. In everything she pointed out, being depressed about my job, spending less time with her, being emotionally withdrawn or unavailable, there was always an element of truth to it, and this made it difficult to argue. The best lies are the ones that are part true, I guess. Some of what she said was true partially or had been true at one time, but it was always exaggerated and blown way out of proportion. Nothing she came up with could explain the breakdown of the last 6 months. However, when I tried to refute or contradict anything she said or steer the conversation, tapping in the direction of let's talk about why you gave up on our marriage, became deceitful and are now in denial that you did anything wrong or have anything to fix, she would become nearly irate. She did not want to hear it and has not owned up to anything really. See, this is what you do. You just argue with me, is what I got. At the beginning of the first session, the first thing the therapist wanted to know was what was the status of her relationship with Mr. X was. Her verbatim reply, well, that's definitely on hold. Notice it was not, it's over, it's on hold. She's a clever wordsmith and she definitely chose those words intentionally. I did not point it out or pursue it at the time, just logged it away in the back of my mind. More on that later. It became clear by the end of the third session that the only way I was going to make any headway was focusing mostly on what went wrong aspect and how I had failed. We talked a lot about my being stuck in a career rut and what I could do to fix that or have a more positive outlook about that. We talked a lot about communicating better, making time to air grievances and not letting emotions simmer. We talked about communicating things clearly and not sugarcoating or being passive-aggressive. All good things. I was hoping that if I would take on more of the responsibility load for all of this, that she would warm up to the idea of reconciliation and eventually she would herself voluntarily admit that she was as much at fault as I and had things that she needed to change. Hey, maybe I'd even get a heartfelt apology. One can dream. But things at home were not getting any better. They were not getting worse per se, but she was cold and robotic in everything. There was no conversation initiated by her other than what was absolutely required. And if I tried to talk about things, she became very irritable very quick. I would ask you, do you want things to get better, right? I wouldn't get a yes response, not a no response either, but a non-committal politician's answer. Well, I'm gonna therapy with you, right? And sometimes just an I don't know how I feel. I just need some time to go through the motions. Okay, I can handle that. This has been a traumatic ride, so that makes sense, I guess. Maybe I'm rushing things and expecting too much too quickly. Rewind to the first therapy session. It's definitely on hold. Mentally picture a rage comic that zooms in on hold. Yeah. So about 3 weeks into therapy, I couldn't stand being paranoid about this anymore. I had noticed that she had begun keeping a vice-like death grip on her phone. It never left her side, and this was not like her. Also, I bumped into her notebook one day, stirring it to life, and I noticed it's now password protected. Gee, I wonder if there is something going on here. After what's happened so far, I didn't trust her to tell me the truth if asked directly. So I did what any good geek, given no other choice, would do. I got into her email via the server. She forgot that her domain and attached email was set up and is maintained by me. Whoops! Lo and behold, she's still talking to Mr. X and has been all this time on a near daily basis. There was no smoking gun in there. Hey, let's meet up and have sex, your husband is Tay Dumbs Low. But the general tone of the emails was more than just exchanging links to funny cat videos. I love yous exchanged and evidence that she is talking to X about how things are going as far as our marriage goes. Cue overwhelming rage and sadness. The shittiest part was I couldn't come right out and confront her about it. Although I feel it was justified, I did get into her personal email without her knowledge, and I would rather have her incriminate herself. I managed to work it into conversation a week later, so I noticed that you've been really protective of your phone. Also, it's been bugging me that you said it's on hold with regards to Mr. X in therapy. Are you still talking to him? After some stammering, she replied that he was still in contact with her, but it was just him sending her random links to random news articles. She said she was guarding her phone because she was worried I'd see a text message from him pop up. and think the wrong thing. I knew that this was, at best, an extreme exaggeration of the truth, but I did not let on. I brought this up towards the end of our next therapy session. The therapist seemed mildly surprised. My wife's response when I started to bring it up was to roll her eyes. Oh, here we go. We didn't get much past that because we ran out of time. Outside of the therapist's office, it was back to her cold, robotic nature. She did not bring it up, and when I tried, she got defensive and angry. That's all this is about to you, isn't it? I dropped it. I've continued to monitor her email and still haven't found anything incriminating to indicate that she's having a physical relationship with this person. But it's obviously possible. I cannot see her sent messages, and I know a lot of this is going on by text or FB, which I don't have access to. So I'm only seeing a partial picture of what's going on when I'm away. It's also possible, I guess, that she thinks it okay to continue a platonic relationship with this person, and she sees exchanging of, hey, what's up? How have you been, blah, blah, emails as innocuous. This could just be me going out of my way to make excuses for something I seem to have a habit of doing. So there you have it. My wife still has a relationship with the D-bag, even though she knows I'm not cool with that. It may be platonic in nature, but I really don't know. She doesn't seem to be very interested in patching things up or making things better. When backed into a corner, she will claim she does, but only if asked directly, and even then, it's often a vague answer. The only happiness she ever shows is when we're playing together with our daughter. I feel like I've done everything I could do. I still cling to threads of hope, but maybe it's time to let go. Is there any hope at all of saving this at this point? She still says I love you, but only in response when I say it. And my own I love yous are sounding more and more hollow. Has anyone here ever been in a relationship this far gone with someone who clearly is not in love with you anymore and is actively deceiving, hurting you, and been able to save it? Thank you, Reddit, for reading. Update, well, I guess I don't need to fret over what to do anymore. Just found out that she has been still sleeping with the derptard. Really sad, actually. Email from her mom telling her that she needs to stop sleeping with X and worrying that she's gonna get an STDA sleeps around apparently. Pass it to me and then lose her daughter. Guess I also have to go get tested now and accelerate legal stuff. Life sucks. I guess I made a really bad choice 8 years ago. Either that or an alien parasite is inhabiting and controlling my wife's body. I wish the latter could be true, as I could probably figure out a solution to that. But I can't travel back in time.